What's going on today, guys? Let's get a review on this Boker Plus Lateralus. This is the collaboration with JB Stout. Has D2 steel, a very high value. So you're looking for the stainless steel. It's available right now in two configurations. With the stainless steel, it's right around 85 bucks. Stainless steel weighs in around 5.5 ounces. So they did a lot to lighten this knife up. If you can see the pockets that are milled inside there. This is also going to be a little bit of a weird review because we are going to go knife spelunking. So what I want to do, and maybe this will be a new way I can start to review knives, give you my overall impressions, tell you what I think about it, and then we'll take it apart. So I can either confirm or go backwards on the review, but it's a more thorough review, and I'm going to do it in one take. I don't want to do a bunch of edits and stuff like that. Once the reviews get so large, then they're harder to make, and then I don't make as many of them. So we'll just pull it down very minimally, maybe even only pull the front scale off. But there's a few questions that I have before I can 100% recommend this knife to you guys. We know it's on bearings. It flips awesome. It locks up awesome. Because it's stainless steel on both sides, you do not need to carbonize the lock face. You do not need a lock faced insert. There's a lot of benefits to cost saving, if you go stainless steel. It is a little bit heavier. A lot of people say they wish it came in titanium. I do too, but I think if enough of these are purchased and it's a popular enough model, I don't know how they wouldn't introduce it in the titanium. But who knows? Anything could happen. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't ever. So look at all the milling on here. Again, you can see the pockets maybe inside this knife. So they have milled away, even on this lock side, big pockets out of here to really lighten this knife up. So 5.5 ounces is still kind of heavy compared to like what I have in my pocket today. You cannot compare these two knives. But you have to understand, I think it'd be wrong for me to tell you this knife is heavy and then not tell you what I prefer nowadays, especially when it's like 96 degrees out and it's super humid in this North Carolina weather, So I just get that out of the way. I like lighter knives. I carried this knife for several weeks. Fine. It didn't feel like a drag on my pocket or anything, but if I had to recommend, for me to do it over again, I bought this to customize it, but I really maybe should have went with the other model, which is the G10 front. It's about $10 cheaper at 75 bucks or so, give or take a little. Black G10 still has all the same milling on here and comes in at around 4.4, so around 4.5 ounces. So you save an entire ounce going to the G10 front, and it still looks great. It's a black G10 on the front. Now it'd be nice to see different variations of that. What about like a green? What about like a tan? Might be cool to see like an orange or something like that. So this model is still fairly new. I got in on one of the first batches out. D2 steel held a wonderful edge, really did. This is still the factory edge. Now, I was really stupid, and you can see how I chipped that front there. I was prying open a paint can, and just chipped that. I think any steel would have chipped at that. I should have just grabbed my Leatherman. I had like this in my pocket. My Leatherman was like 10 steps away over here. I was like, oh, we're testing a knife. Let's go ahead and anyways, it's still a tiny chip. But that is the factory edge. They did a really good job keeping everything nice and even all the way along. It was very sharp. I purposely have not sharpened this just so that, you guys could see the factory specs. And it's still serviceable. It does need a resharpening. Starting to slide around on my thumbnail. I've got this here. This is kind of my sharpness. Set it on like a marker or a Sharpie, a Marky, or the back of your thumbnail. I've showed you guys this over the years. And if it bites in, you see it's wiggling around. Knife weight alone, it should kind of bite in. it's right on borderline. I could still carry this to work and it would still cut shrink wrap, cut my straps, and do all that I wanted to. But I would like it a little sharper. Again, this is after about 3 weeks of carrying it a lot. Not quite every single day, but a lot. So the D2 steel, very impressive to me. They did a really good job on their heat treat. Now let's talk about the milling and all that. The lockup spin right there. It has moved over a touch since I got it brand new, but I really have been putting this knife to the test. I had a vacation shortly after I got this knife, and it was a staycation, and that staycation included a bunch of honey-do lists, one being paint the kitchen. So anyways, yeah, that was fun. So there was a lot of cutting and scraping and different things like that. Prying paint cans open and chipping your blade, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of stuff. It was a good time to get a new knife to really get to know it, and the D2 did impress me. I don't know what the hardness was, but I know they did a really good job on it. And if you look, you can see just a little bit of surface rust on there. Now I could probably polish that away fairly quick. You may even be able to see a little bit of staining on that D2. D2 is not 100% stainless steel, not by definition, although it's extremely close. So you will get some, you see that maybe right there, a little bit of staining going on. That's regular patina things for D2. It will rust if you don't care for it right. When this come out of the box, and maybe you could go back to my unboxing, you'll see that there was like a little slight surface rust, something going on in between the jimping there. That's all kind of stuff I can overlook for the price point of this knife. 85 bucks is an unbelievable value, but that brings you into the next category, is you have to deal with that. Keep in mind that Jason Stout, it does benefit him in some way. I have no idea the numbers. It's not any of my business to know how much it helps him. But I know if he put the okay on it, then I feel okay purchasing it. But some people won't feel that way. I understand it. There is a lot of options made in other territories that, you know, would be comparable with this. But I personally feel like, you know, I overlook it for this knife. Whatever that means to you. Maybe you think I'm a horrible person. Maybe you get it. But the milling on this thing is incredible. It's all over the place. They did like these different stepped back spacers here. So it's not even just like a plain barrel spacer. You can see all of the pockets milled in there. The one kind of knock I'm going to have to put on this knife now that I'm looking at it is I did have a problem with this pocket clip. You see how this point is right where this cutout is right here? That catches on your pocket when you go to pull this out of your pocket. Also, sometimes when you're putting it in your pocket, this clip is fairly tight. Now, we could loosen that up. You just pull up on the clip a little bit. Don't break it. Just little flexes at a time. Loosen up a little bit of the tension. Or you can take it off, put it in a vise, bend it out a little bit, relieve some of that tension. But it's a very high tension pocket clip. The ramp is okay. I would like it to be a little larger, but when you get that ramp a little larger, it does create a little hot spot or so. There's no hot spots as it is configured now. You see they rounded that off. They have it lifted up here. But again, when you take it out of your pocket, it catches right there on that little bit of shelf. And I know a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. I do feel like there could be a little more room here too. It's a little tight. I know it's not a great example, but look how much room this cold steel has underneath it. You know what I mean? Now this has another problem with the sand in your pants, but that's for another story. While I have this out here though, let's get a couple size comparisons before we take this thing down. I know it's already 9 minutes. It's going to be a long review, but I'm really curious to see if they did individual ball bearings in here or if they did a washer style. I'm also curious to know if this hardware is going to strip out. Some of these knives that point of origin from China has bad hardware and you will have problems. Hopefully we don't, but sometimes that happens. I'm also interested to know if this pivot is a D-style lockdown pivot. I feel like it is because I haven't had to adjust this knife not once. You still see it dead centered. Flipping, well, now that I'm doing it light around the camera, it flips every single time, even with the slight. Detent is great. Not too tight, not too loose. It's not so strong as soon as you break it, it flicks open. You can get it to not pop, but if you're a experienced flipper, this knife will fire every single time. I mean, straight up. If I wasn't around the camera, about to poke my camera here, all that. Now my finger bumped it. Let's see, the ultra elusive pinky. Oh yeah. But anyways, let's do some size comparisons. Let's break this thing down. I'm not going to assemble it on camera. This is the Cold Steel Lawman. This is the Cold Steel Mini. I'm going with more budget style knives that I have here available and on hand. This is the Mini Recon, so you can see about the size differences. To me, this right here is the ultimate. Everybody has this knife and will know the size of it. This is the $3 or $4 Walmart knife. So there you can see the size. I assume you're in the budget knives, so maybe you have some of these. This is that Emerson, whatever it was. You see about the size difference there. And if you were into a little bit better knives, there's a Delica and a Para 2. I feel like the Para 2 or even the Delica, for me personally, would be a better every single day carry, but not to take away from this knife being an incredible value, especially with that D2 steel that holds a great edge. It just is a little heavy. Maybe the G10 version would be a little better for me personally. So I also wanted to talk before we take this thing apart. This choil is really small. It's weird because it feels too small to be a finger choil, but it feels too large to be like a sharpening notch choil. I have a marker right here. I probably shouldn't do this, but this might make a good video on how I would modify this. To me, there's no reason that this couldn't. And my light falls. We're not going to edit. I'll just reclamp it. I want to do this all in one take. There's my light. A lot of you guys have already seen my studio setup. Like, why couldn't this pull back here? Do you see? And come across here and back like this. And open up that finger choil a little bit more, and you would still keep the same lines here. And you would have just a little more room there. So, excuse me a second while I fix the studio here. Amateur hour. That's all right. Did you know my biggest fear growing up was public speaking? That would have just, I would have had a heart attack about 15 years ago. Anyways, all right, we're back on, I think. So, a little bigger finger choil. Wouldn't that be a lot better? And I know this stays true to his original design. There's no jimping on that flipper, but you don't need any of that extra flipper. The only thing you're touching is this top corner. Right? And give you more room here. Come on. Anyways, I'll be making that mod to this knife. Let's pull it down. Let's see what's going on inside. I'm really curious. This shouldn't take too long. Sorry, not sorry on the long reviews. I mean, it just is what it is. Try to be as thorough as possible. So, what I want to do is just pop off this front scale so we can get an inside look. If it needs to be pulled down any further than that, we can do that. So, this is where, oh, look at that, where we look at exactly what's going on. Oh, we can already see that is a locked down, and just as I suspected, that is a D-shaped pivot. So the pivot doesn't spin as you're flipping it back and forth nonstop. The pivot stays there. It helps the screws stay tight. Very good design. A plus on that. It's exactly what I was expecting, though, because I haven't had a pivot issue with this knife at all. Now, will a million balls fall out, or will washers fall out? Let's relieve some of the tension off the lock. Oh, boy. Oh, we got washers in there. Nice. Nice. That's strange. Why is there a hole there? That is really bizarre. Why would you put an extra hole in there? I don't think it would weaken the blade too much, but still, it's really bizarre. All right, now let's pull off the front with a T6. Hardware seems nice. There's no deformation. When I put the twist on it, it twists down. Hardware review and a knife review? Absolutely. All right, let's pull this knife apart and see what's going on. There goes the stop pin. Very nice. I really like how they did the stop pin. This is a larger diameter that's been turned down. It's anchored on both sides of there, and that's the stop pin for when it's open, right? And it's also the stop pin for when it's closed. Right, very good design. I also like how they wrapped, I should have showed you this before, but it kind of wraps around where this is. Any of you guys are familiar with my videos, you know I talk about that a lot. So, look at this. Look how this stopped. Right there's the pivot. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So we do have... Very nice. I love this style versus the loose ball bearings of the Boker Quaken. So good job on that. Being that this is stainless steel, we don't need any kind of stainless steel washers. Spyderco. We don't need any paper thin things gunking up our action. So there you go. I know I gotta say it though. So there you can see these are steel. These are not ceramic. I personally don't feel the difference between ceramic bearings in your knife versus steel bearings. Overall, the ceramic will probably wear a lot less than steel, but I hardly doubt that you would flip your knife so much that you would wear out a set of stainless steel, and they're easy enough to change, so I don't see that as a hit. So look at all this milling inside here. I had to rearrange my lights when that one fell down. Hopefully it's not washing out too much. Very well done. Very well done. You can see all that milling in there. I also want to point out the stability of this knife. Look how many points of contact. So for one, you have this fat pivot through here connecting this scale to this scale so it doesn't skew this way. Then obviously you have your stop pin in there, but look how these are shouldered right here. The backspacer is shouldered and sinks into this stainless. So now that's really locked down right here and right here. We don't always see that in knives. Sometimes they just have floating barrels through there and it doesn't quite provide this type of stability like this, or even crushed down like this, because this is a wider surface here. It's a lot more less prone. I don't have my hinder here to show you, but you guys probably know what I'm talking about. One of the selling points of the hinder is the larger back. Now it's not quite that large, but anyways, let's see. Oh, we have a steel detent there. And there's the lock face. No deformation. I have flipped this knife thousands and thousands of times. You can see all my pocket lint in there. Yep, actually carrying these knives to review them. Imagine that. So there you go. That is the Boker Lateralus. I think they did an awesome job, especially at that price point. I feel like you're getting, this might be value budget knife of the year for me so far in 2017. When you pair it up with that D2, very, very minor nitpicks overall. My only one is I wish that they opened this choil up a little more. That's a pretty fairly easy mod for me to make. I think most of you guys can handle it too with some sandpaper and a file. Maybe even a Dremel if you have a real steady hand. We'll see how it goes. I'll do the mod. Maybe we'll make a video on that too. I don't know. I like that there are not loose bearings in there. I love the design of the knife. Some people, aren't going to dig it. Just the overall profile here. Very slim waistline here. I like all this milling. Very Art Deco looking. I like how this fuller lines up with this here. The whole flow of the knife is like this. If you notice, the back portion is swooping this way. He also swooped this way. The plunge line is even swooped this way. And then the way that this clip point, and they do classify it as a clip point, kind of lays back this way. The knife just looks racy. And what I mean, it looks like a Lamborghini versus like a minivan or something, this feels like a slick design. It really flows well with my eye as I see things. I think this adds character, that Art Deco look. So anyways, after 22 minutes, I'm out of things to talk about this knife. I'm impressed with the build quality. Remember, it does have the captured pivot. You won't be needing, I don't have any Loctite in this. You can see there's no Loctite residue on there. I've had zero problems with this stop pin moving on me and needing the blade readjusted. Blade was dead centered. Everybody that I have seen who has received one of these knives have been very impressed by it. Good job. I hope this is a sign of things to come from Boker, because man, I would love to see this knife in titanium. Even if it was $100 more, I would pay $180 for this knife in D2 with a titanium handle. I'm just saying I would. I really do like it. All right, guys, that's it. Enjoy your day. I appreciate you hanging out with me as always. We'll see you later.